Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker.
Kia ora.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Kia ora. I rise to support this bill to Select Committee, the Land Transport Amendment Bill 2016. Mr Speaker, it's the day after we saw the final funding agreement for Auckland's CBD rail link, one of the most important pieces of infrastructure in terms of our largest city, in terms of the national economy, and it's fantastic to finally see that happen. I don't know if members are aware, but this is, for the Green Party, it's been a campaign for an awful long time. But there's actually Hansard records from this House from the 1880s which reference that rail line linking up the current rail network. It was Mayor Robbie in the 70s who really pushed it. There's some wonderful 1970s orange-style concept designs of what it could have looked like. At least when we finally get it in the 2020s, it'll probably look a little bit more modern than that beautiful 1970s sort of decor it would have had. But it's fantastic to see that project going ahead. Another area where the Green Party has won when it comes to transport is in terms of cycleways. I note the government's investment in this area. We've worked with them in terms of rolling out the national cycleway network. So when it comes to public transport, better transport options for all New Zealanders, I think it's fair to say, without a bit of gloating, the Greens have been ahead of the curve. It's been great to see the other parties play catch up. And when you look at this legislation, we're grappling with some of those impacts of new technologies, for example, Uber, the opportunities of new technologies when you look at alcohol interlocks and how that comes to this House. So while we're debating the Land Transport Amendment Bill, dealing with some more sort of regulatory and administrative features of transport, let's not take our eye off the prize, which is we can have high quality, modern ways that people can get around. People want more choice to get their kids to school, to get to work, to go have fun and enjoyment, and they want a variety of options. People want to take a modern fast train downtown in Auckland. They want to have faster, more frequent trains from the west. They want to get to the airport and catch a train when it comes to Auckland. In Wellington, we want to have a light rail which links up our railway station with our airport through our city. We want to have better, more affordable buses. We want to have more affordable fares for groups such as students. So that's our vision. This is what we're going to be clearly articulating as a positive, fully costed transport plan for this country. This is what Kiwis want to see, these tangible projects. We've been at the forefront. We will continue to do it. Now, when it comes to the 6 provisions in this law, I want to touch on a few in this first reading debate. The first is around Uber. The Green Party takes the position the proposed amendments are pretty reasonable. We're basically amending the taxi regulations relating to Uber, a less bureaucratic approach. I understand the arguments of Uber and some of their drivers that the current consent conditions can cost up to $2,000. That does seem incredibly high, particularly when you've got most of the information available via your smartphone. You can track the driver, you can see the driver's photograph, all those sort of things. But I would note that many drivers, well, in fact all the drivers, have been flouting the law currently when it comes to the existing law, which never can be on. So the amendments do look pretty reasonable. For example, not having to have tests on their driver knowledge in terms of the cities they're going around. It doesn't really make sense in 2016 when you've got all that information on Google Maps or Waze or Uber's files. So we support it. We want to hear from both the parties and select committees, and we're going to welcome that discussion. When it comes to alcohol interlocks, this is a good clause progressing. I remember sitting in the select committee hearings many years back when the government was refusing to move the blood alcohol level from 0.8, which was out of line with the rest of the world, to 0.5. I'm glad that common sense has prevailed and we have gone more into line in terms of a safer blood alcohol level. But the key message I heard from police officers and experts back then is that alcohol interlocks are the surest, safest way to get those repeat drink drivers off the roads. The existing law is that a court can mandate it, but this amendment will make sure that repeat offenders do have alcohol interlocks applied. When you look overseas, the efficacy of them is on the order of 35 to 90%. The AA, I note, estimate that currently with only a couple of hundred alcohol interlocks installed in New Zealand, we could be seeing 100 repeat drink drivers not on our roads. As someone who drives my kids around our cities and towns, it's a terrifying thought that a drunk driver could come screaming down the road through no fault of myself or my wife or any other person on our roads. It's a terrible thought that we could have these repeat drunk drivers who continue to get behind the wheel. Alcohol interlocks make sure that is massively reduced on the order of 90%. When it comes to the third substantive section, which is increasing penalties for fleeing drivers, I would note on the record the Green Party does have some concerns in this area. I note the Attorney General in his Bill of Rights Act report also had some concerns. These are increasing the provisions the government has for penalties when it comes to those fleeing drivers. Now, I know the government claims there are about 2,300 people fleeing police every year, resulting in 460 crashes. I know it is an incredibly concerning phenomenon that innocent victims, including our police officers, are in many tragic cases, killed or injured when it comes to fleeing drivers. I support the intent of it, but we do note those Bill of Rights Act concerns. The Attorney General has suggested some drafting amendments, and we'll pick that up in Select Committee. But I'll also note the comments of Victoria University criminologist Professor John Pratt, who has questioned the logic behind it, which is his comments that I don't think it'll have much effect on these particular cases, because people who do these sorts of things for the most part are likely to be young men who don't have much to lose in the first place. But let's have that debate in the Select Committee. We really welcome that. There's some changes around public transport fare evasion. In Auckland, it's estimated to be between $1.4 and $2 million. As a party that's put out a huge volume of public transport policy, has delivered those wins in the past, for example, the electrification of Auckland's public transport network, the CBD rail look and National Cycleway, we want to see appropriate funding. When you're seeing maybe 6% of the network not being funded through fare evasion, we do have some concerns. We're going to be interested to explore how these new powers are actually going to work. We think a balance needs to be struck. And then fifthly, regulation of heavy vehicles, and sixthly, on miscellaneous changes. There in particular, we're going to be looking at a clause which says clarifying the powers of police to take certain actions, including forbidding driving and immobilising vehicles in interest of public safety. This is something we want to delve down in a little bit more depth, talk to the experts and find out exactly what that means, because we do have to strike a good balance between our civil rights as New Zealanders and the rights that the police need to protect our public safety. So all in all, Mr. Speaker, it's a pretty good bill. We'll be supporting it as a Select Committee. We'll be hearing the debate there before deciding our final position. But look, let's keep our eyes on the prize, if I can make that key point in this contribution. There are so many public transport, better transport, active transport opportunities New Zealand has. It's all about making sure the government, with its scarce funding resources, are investing in the best infrastructure projects that deliver the best economic, best social benefits for New Zealand. We've questioned some of the very unwise spending decisions. For example, the more than $10 billion being spent on these roads of national significance at a time when road volumes are flat. Many people are delaying getting their licence or refusing to at all because they'd rather sit on a high quality train. They've been overseas, they've seen what's happening in Singapore or London or York. They want to be on Snapchat playing Pokemon Go as they speed through the city, not stuck in congestion. So let's make sure we focus on the big picture, which is we've got some great opportunities, big decisions ahead of us. It's good to be dealing with the regulatory administrative stuff, but let's focus on the big picture too.